JKB back with another episode. Today on the show, I'm reviewing both the Mario and Luigi version of Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Is it worth spending your hard-earned money on an AR game that requires you to basically move into a new house? Well, let's get into the review. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. It really does help me out. The game was officially revealed during Mario's 35th anniversary stream, and I was blown away by it. I thought, how is this going to work? Is it going to work on the carpeting? Is it going to have to be inside all the time? Do you have to basically rip your house apart to play this game? Well, those are questions that I'm going to answer during this review, but let's get into what's in the box. The first thing you're going to see when you open the box are instructions to show you exactly how you're going to connect your cart to the Nintendo Switch. And let me just say, it's super easy to do. You push the ignition button on the side of the cart, which does come 75% charged, and it will start to blink on the back of the cart with a little indication light saying that it's looking for a partner. It wants to connect to something. So in the software that I should add is free to download for everybody. So if you don't have a cart, you could still download the software from the eShop. In the software, it will connect to the cart, and it's as easy as pointing the cart at an AR card that will show up on the screen. Super easy. It connects. I had no issue doing this. On one side of the cart, you lift up a little tab that reveals the USB-C input so you can charge the cart. It lasts about an hour to an hour and a half, which is pretty good, and it does display that on screen on your Switch to notify you if it's getting low. Next up in the box, you'll have all of the gates, and these gates interact with the AR camera on the car. Now, it's important to point out that the AR camera on the car is always on. It's always going to be showing what's around you when you're driving. And yeah, I'll get into how big of a space you really need to play this game, but I want to point out a few different things, like being on carpet. Does the camera jitter too much when you're looking at the screen? No, I felt that it was perfectly fine. I drove on carpet and cement. I didn't take it outside. However, you can go into free roam mode where you just have your Switch in handheld mode and the cart in front of you, and you could drive basically anywhere you want. So you're not on a track, you're just kind of terrorizing your animals. Now, the coolest part about this game is obviously building your own tracks. You take the gates out of the box and they're kind of cool. They're simply made kind of just like the Labo stuff was made with the cardboard. Nintendo's kind of genius at this stuff. So you unfold it and you put the AR gates on the floor. There's nothing technical about them. They're just cardboard with print on them. And the cart itself with the camera will know where it is on screen. And that's where the AR comes into play, because it replaces all of these gates with Mario themed gates. And I mean, special effects, enemies, and lighting effects, all sorts of things come to life on screen once you see that first gate on the camera on your Switch. You're blown away. Now, like I said, when you take the cart out of the box, it's at 75% battery, which is awesome if you're getting this for, Christmas morning. You could just pop it out of the box and be driving instantly. I wanted to point out a couple things about the cart. It feels like a toy. It feels definitely like it is a toy with an AR camera in it. It's not poor quality by any means. It feels great, but it does have a super sort of shiny surface to it. So if you have children, it is going to get scratched and banged up. Because yeah, you're going to be banging this into a lot of different items in your house, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. Now, once you have the cart connected to the Switch, it's going to ask you to create a track, and it's as simple as putting these gates all over your room, your house, wherever you want to put them, and then simply driving through them. The cart itself will detect where you're driving and know exactly where the track is. And one important thing I should point out is that the gates themselves should be maybe taped to I wouldn't tape them, but I would put something on top of the two sort of wings that they supply on each gate. That way, if you crash into the gate, which a lot of people are going to do, you won't move the gate during a race and mess up the whole race itself. Once you're done building your custom track in the game, the couplings show up on screen in your hand in AR glory, and they're like, basically, we're going to race you. and you race on the course that you just designed. Now keep in mind, it's an AR technology that we've seen before from Nintendo on the 3DS, but this is to a new level. Not only does Mario look really good on the screen, but the characters and the interaction with the world is almost perfect. You will notice at times maybe it'll go off just slightly here and there, but no. I mean, even at that ratio of like 1-to-1, is so close to it that you don't really tell that this is AR. It's like when it goes good, it goes perfect. It's like, what is going on? There's a Koopling in front of me on the screen, but not in real life. And when I move my cart left and right, he moves with the movement on screen like he's really there. It is really something to behold. Not only that, the track itself has an outline that stays with the motion of the cart on screen. You also have the question mark blocks, which have all the usual items that you would want to pick up in Mario Kart, like boosters and, weapons and shells and all that stuff, all in the game. All works amazing. Now, one thing I do want to bring up about the cart is the way it turns. Of course, there's no drifting in this game. I know a lot of people are going to pick it up and be like, oh, I want to drift to get the boost. Well, there's things in the game that replace that, but you can't do it in the game. Obviously, this cart either just goes straight or left or right. There's no real in between. Yes, you can sort of finesse the analog stick to the left and right a little bit to get a less sharp turn, but a lot of people are going to be just hammering left and right, and the cart just goes right and left. So you have to get used to the feeling of the carts. Once you've done that, you will start to see where the magic really lies in this game. For this review, I wanted to set up a course in my house, but I live in a small apartment, so it's kind of hard to do. I also have a couple of animals here that get in the way, so what I did was take just some footage on my iPhone in 4K of me playing in our storage room, just so you can kind of see what it's like to build a course and then go around that course. Just for a split second, I wanted to show you that. But I will point out that I did fool around with it a little bit more afterwards, and I was able to make smaller tracks in smaller areas. There's things that I wanted to point out that I think a lot of people are questioning, like, can you go through tunnels? Can you go under tables? Does it lose its signal? It goes about 15 to 25 feet away from you, and if you lose signal, it's not as bad as you think. It just gets a little choppy on the screen. But it's important to say that you can go under tables, and you can go through tunnels, and you can actually bend cardboard so you have hills. If you have some plastic, like an old, piece of plastic lying around that's bendable to a certain degree, it has to be, obviously bends enough that the cart can go down it and not get stuck. You can do that in the game, so you can actually have bridges where you go over something and then another cart goes under it. All of those things are possible. People have been fooling around with it, so I'm pretty excited to see what people come up with in terms of building crazy courses. I also want to bring up how much customization is in the game. Of course, you can make your own track, and it works perfectly fine. But on screen is where the magic happens, and you really sense they cared about the game because of how much content is in the game. I mean, you've got the 50cc, the 100cc, 150 and 200cc, but does the cart get faster? Yes, it does actually physically get faster in front of you, and when you use a mushroom boost, you'll see the cart get slightly faster. But it's very important to say that if you have young children, 7 to 14, they're not going to be able to do the high-end version of the races in terms of speed. The low-end version, wow, anybody can play that at 50cc, and it's a blast with 2 players. I was able to get the Luigi cart as well and test out the 2-player functionality, and it works really well. It's as simple as having 2 different switches, handheld mode, and you just sync them up. One person makes a room, the other person joins the room. That's it. It's as simple as that. And something else I should point out, I did it on my same account, so Nintendo's not blocking out the software. You don't need to make a secondary user. At least for my testing, I was able to launch the game on 2 different systems using my user account, which is awesome, because I didn't want to make a whole nother account just to race. A lot of people wanted to know how it works on the carpet, and that was one of the things I focused on the most. And you're able to drive on carpeting unless you have like a 1970s shaggy rug. You can use it on the rug. It's for sure going to work. It's going to be a little jittery on the screen, but it's not going to be enough to stop it from moving. Now, I also tested it on, everything else that you can think of, like tiles and hardwood floor and cement. It works well on everything. And like I said, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. You can bring it outside and play with your friends, say on the asphalt, but you're going to ruin the car. The car itself is, just a very super shiny plastic. And unfortunately, it is going to scratch if you're banging it into things, or if it flips over, it'll instantly be ruined in terms of its finish. So I highly suggest to stop your children from taking this out to school. Don't do that. Keep it in the house if you want to keep it in pristine condition. In closing, it is amazing to see Nintendo take a bunch of different technologies like the Nintendo Switch, the AR, and the car itself, and even like the idea of using this, it's basically almost out of Labo, cardboard signage to interact with everything. Is just amazing. And for it to work on screen almost 1-to-1 during a high-speed race is really impressive. I have to say, being almost 40, it's definitely one of these games that if you're a fan of Mario and you grew up with Mario, you definitely want to play it. You definitely want to check it out. You definitely want to fool around with it. Is it something that I'm going to play all the time? I don't think so. I think that if you have children, this is really something you pick up for a Christmas morning gift for the family or your son or your daughter, and you will have an absolute blast playing this. I think it's a very niche product. I don't think it's for everybody. If you are a fan of Mario Kart and you simply want to get this because you think it's cool, it's not something that you're going to pick up and play instantly and gravitate to every single day. It is a very time-consuming thing to do, to set up these tracks. And I should point out that every time you do a race, you're essentially just changing the theme of the race and certain aspects of the race. So when you're driving around, it might look like Mario 1 with bricks and the classic clouds in the sky, and Cheep Cheeps jumping around you, and all sorts of things from the Mario universe. But the track itself is always going to be the same unless you get up and change it. So that's another huge part of this that you need to pay attention to if you're going to buy it. If you have one room that fits it, that's where you're going to be racing the whole time. One room, which is kind of not great for a lot of people out there if you live in an apartment. Now, if you have a house that has multiple floors, basements, and everything, you're going to have a field day. You can go upstairs, basement, and switch it up. You can go crazy. I've seen people online buying boxes and going up the boxes and down and through tunnels. You can go nuts with it. But again, in closing, if you have a small room, it's not necessarily something that I think you are going to get a lot out of. You're going to be on the same track, essentially doing the same thing, and it might get it'll get very repetitive. I'm going to give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. The software is free, of course. It doesn't come with a physical game cartridge, which makes sense because it's about the cart. You'll always be able to download it to the Switch. I think, in the long run of things, when the Switch is long gone and the eShop is long gone, it'll be useless. It'll be sitting on your shelf in 20 years. But in the meantime, you're going to have a blast with it if you're a hardcore Mario fan. I hope you enjoyed this review of Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, and I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.